terms of this. And it's a great, easy, very well explained thing.
I'd love for you real quick to go through the sounds that we built a week
Yeah.
ago, just so that some of you have been wanting, right now we have a really good piano pad, but the piano has a couple delays on it. That for some songs works really great. Other songs it feels like, oh, I wish there wasn't the delay, and I don't want to, like, every time I bring it up, like, have to go turn 2 different delays off. So we built a couple just piano with pads that are affected by the wheel, that you can kind of move the pad in and move it out. I'm happy to, I have this stuff backed up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it translates to another Nord. I'm happy to give that to you.
Great.
Knowing what you've done here, it'll be interesting to see how you built it, because
Yeah.
I just saw lights flash and I started playing.
Right.
So the new sounds that we did are in the B bank, for those of you who use this actual keyboard.
Same at Wash Park, by the way.
B11, it's labeled piano and string. There's not much strings on there until you use the wheel. And the wheel is also increasing the volume on the piano as well, so everything gets a little bit louder. In slot A is just the piano. Slot B has the strings. We could have put those on the same one, I guess. But it's sample 25, which is full orchestra. If we turn off the piano, we can hear that. Oh, wheel.
And you can do any sound, any mixture of sounds with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we wanted, we could bring up the low pass filter to get some more high end on there. But it's rolled off a little bit, and that's good. It gets too much up here for me. And it's got a slow attack on it. It's not using any low frequency oscillator, no unison or anything like that, just real simple string sample.
If you make a change to it and you go back to it for the next service or after rehearsal, it will not be there. So just
Right.
a reminder.
The second sound is piano warm pad.
Again, these are in B, right?
Yes.
You added all these in B, because you
Yep.
kept the ones
So
in
we
A?
have A1 through A1 through A15, and then we have B11, B12, B13.
Okay.
So piano warm pad functions the same way. So the wheel brings in the pad, which also gives you the ability to just do like half if you don't want so much pad. So we have, I think, 2 pads on here. Yes, the B slot has a pad, and the A slot has a pad. The A pad, we'll isolate that. Sounds like that. You know, low cutoff frequency, got some unison on there. And this one reacts to how hard you push. So it will be louder if you push harder. And this pad only is on the bottom split. So below this key, there's synth pad there, but nothing up here. In slot B, we have a sine pad with some unison and a kind of a low frequency cutoff, and some chorus on it, which sounds like, which is nice. Now if we bring the other pad back in, it's got that little shimmer on top. This one is also through the whole keyboard, so it's on all, so when you come up here, you have that pad without the first pad, which is down here. So we bring it all back together, and
So how do you know what the split is splitting? Just by looking at it, or can you tell?
yeah, you can see here what regions each section
all
is set
3?
to. So this is all 3, that's just the bottom, and that one is all 3.
Okay.
Wait, and just because I showed up late, how
That's
do
okay.
you move this?
Shift and the split keys.
I see,
We'll just toggle through the lights.
I see.
And if you shift 3, we'll change the upper split. Yeah, good question. And then the third sound that we made is a pad and a lead, which is a similar sine pad that we had before with some unison on a lower split. The We also have a lead. Now, we did a 3-split, and the pad is on the bottom 2 sections. So from here down, and the lead is on the top 2 sections. So from here up. So here is where they cross over. So you have the pad and the lead. Here's just the pad, here's just the lead. So know that they kind of cross over each other a little bit. That lead, though, for that pad is a little aggressive. Anything that uses that pad might not use this lead. Which means I might change that lead a little bit and just cut off a little of the high frequencies and see how that goes. Whoa! What is going on there?
And that feels like
Making
super
it more
helpful when you
intense.
you have a lead line that you need to play, but you don't want to be like comping,
Sorry.
and have that like really aggressive sound. So like that's a really great time to use split function to differentiate.
That's weird. Now I'm legitimately trying to figure out why it's doing that. Low frequency.
Stupid knobs.
Way too many.
That's so weird. So the low frequency oscillator is doing a little something. All right, so I think that was the key. So what I'm going to do is reload this sound and see if I can do that again, make it sound how I want it to. So I think it's the low frequency oscillator. No, so there's something else happening. That's so weird. I don't think I could make it do this if I wanted it to.
I like it, Ryan.
All right, well, then you're keeping it. That pad's nice, though. We might need to reassess that at some point. Anyway,
Can I ask a quick question?
yes,
How-
those are the new sounds, I think,
Can
just
you
those
go
3.
through real quick this is probably an easy lookup, but how did you assign which sound went to the wheel? That make sense?
Yes.
So like if you, as opposed to a pad or strings or piano or synth, how do you decide which one goes to that?
So here are your 3, what they call morph controls. The wheel, the aftertouch, and the control pedal, which there is no control pedal. So those are your 2 choices. So if you want to assign something to the wheel, you double tap that button and it's flashing now.
Okay.
Now you can see there's 2 lights right here, and that shows the range that the wheel is already controlling
Okay.
for that volume. If you switch over to the B slot, there's 2 lights on here too, and you can see that's what's already happening. But if you want something else to happen, say the organ volume, you just move that knob, and now that's assigned
Okay.
while that's flashing. You press it again, and now it's saved. So now the wheel does the organ volume too.
So you can even put multiple, like you just put the organ and the piano together on the wheel.
Yeah, any
Okay.
of these knobs with the lights around them are assignable to the wheel or the aftertouch. And so, yeah, it's really just press it twice, turn what you want to turn, press it again, and now it's assigned.
And that was the top end. You can change the low end, I'm assuming,
Yes.
because I saw the top end go up.
Yeah, the interesting thing to remember when assigning the wheel is to set what you want to start with first. So if you want the piano volume to be all the way down, when the wheel's all the way down, you got to set it there first. Press it, go all the way up,
Got it.
press it again. Now it'll do it.
Gotcha.
Because you're only setting the increase
Where it
amount.
was to-
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
And if there's a sound that you guys build that you like, I use this often and I have to rebuild it every time, like I'm not opposed to saving that sound as a programmed one.
Just not on top of one that's already there.
Correct. But yeah, I just have to unlock it so that we can do that and then lock it back up.
And yeah, there's plenty of spaces to save things. Yeah, you can go crazy making sounds and saving them. On the saving note, the synths can be saved independently, so that when you could save all your settings to one specific synth, and then you can call that synth up in any other program already with this load sound button. So if you turn it on and go to a string sound, we'll initialize, go to a string sound, so that's a string sample, and if you hit shift load sound, it's going to change the settings to what the programmers thought the settings should be for that sound. And sometimes you'll see changes with these lights, but since there's only 3 lights, you won't always see a change. But load sound is the intended settings for whatever sample is, and you can save
that's
those things. Yeah.
Huh.
I don't really ever do that, but it's good to know about. Yeah, I mean, so we covered the review of the keyboard. Now,
Maybe just because of time, why don't we
Yeah.
just open it for questions?
questions.
So like, what do we feel we need in our experience? Like, I wish Chad knew how to tell me how to do this. Now's the time.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is the reverb section, is that pretty static, or are there other variables that we can control?
You get the choice of one of 6 reverbs and how much.
And that's
Yeah,
it.
that's it. And that's universal to everything that's coming out. So you can't have just reverb on the piano and
Right.
not on the organ, which is annoying. I wish you could. But yeah.
Okay.
The same thing with the compressor, which I don't ever really use, but it's on or off and how much.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
those
just
are,
like a wet dry mix kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I have another one.
yeah.
Is it, I've seen some tutorials online where it sounded like they're getting like, and that's why I asked about the reverb, like some sort of like modulated delay or reverb sound. Did they probably program that in this section versus like a,
Well, this isn't going to have any sort of delay. I mean, you can play with the release to get something that's kind of like a reverb.
Okay.
You could get really tricky. Like,
Okay.
like one of the things, a simple example. So we're going to go just back to A11. We've got a piano. Turn everything else off. We have a piano. So one of the tricky things that you can do, now this isn't modulating really so much, but you could do this with a synth, but I'm just gonna go to slot B and pull up a Rhodes. Yeah, okay, so I've got a Rhodes, and I'm gonna put delay on the Rhodes. A little faster. And now I'm gonna go full delay to where there's no attack. Then I'm gonna go back and layer those two together. So now I've got a Rhodes delay on my piano.
interesting?
You could do a similar thing with a synth
Yeah.
that's like modulated, that you're only hearing the delay of.
Yeah, that's cool.
But that's a lot of effort to,
Yeah,
to
that
do
is
something like that. You gotta really want something like that. But it's possible, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And that's a fun thing to do. I like doing that because the Rhodes has a softer attack than the piano, so it's a nicer. Well, I'll turn the Rhodes down a little bit, but it's kind of a gentler follow-up to the piano. It's just little Nord trick.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Other questions?
Keep going, Matt.
I've got several more, so does anybody else have any before it's okay.
Go for it.
All right, was curious, so I like to run tracks a lot. Is it possible to send a MIDI signal out to the Rhodes to have it sync tempo-wise with the song that I'm on?
most major software would do that. What are you using?
Logic.
Okay. Logic should. You can do one of two things. You know what? I don't remember if this keyboard. So it looks like this keyboard doesn't have any settings for receiving clock, MIDI clock stuff.
Okay.
But you could send a control change to set the internal tempo of the keyboard.
Okay.
It might be tricky to get it to sync, but I'm certain you could.
Okay. I just thought that would always, it would be cool if
It
you
would
could just
be-
like
yes.
get everything to, without anybody having to change anything.
Right. Yes, you can.
Okay.
The specifics of Logic talking to this would be the tricky part,
Okay.
but it's definitely possible.
Cool. That's neat.
Anybody else have one yet? Still your turn?
Okay. I've heard that you can connect another controller to this
Yes.
and control with that. How does that work?
So I do this a lot. It's called dual keyboard. If you look up in the manual, it talks about how the intricacies of that work. But this light right here, it says dual KB. If you press shift and press that to where the light comes on, dual KB is on, which means slot B is being controlled by a MIDI controller that's plugged into this. So slot A, slot B, oh, it shouldn't make sound. Because dual keyboard is on. That's weird.
Is it because there's not one plugged in?
It might be.
Detect on the-
It might be.
Wouldn't that allow you to just be playing them separately but at the same time?
Oh, no, that's why. So I switched over to slot B, but it was still the piano. Because that's what's in slot A. So when you have a second keyboard plugged into here, slot A becomes this keyboard, and slot B becomes the other keyboard. So even though I'm looking at slot B, it's a sine wave pad right now. Because slot A is still the piano.
Oh, yeah.
So I do that a lot, mostly for organ, because organ keys are not weighted keys like a piano is. Organ is much faster and lighter touch. So if you're playing more active organ things, it's nice to have non-weighted keys, in my opinion. So I'll have a dual keyboard set up. So it's still using the internal organ sounds from this keyboard and just a MIDI controller, so I can just play organ with non-weighted keys on what is a weighted keyboard. Yes. You can also control other keyboards with this, with the external section, which is something I've never needed to, but it can do it. It can send information to other keyboards that use their own internal sounds.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's for you to look up in the manual
Yeah,
if you want to know how to do it.
totally. Fascinating. Thank you.
The external section's kind of funny, but yeah.
I think for me, I'm just thinking, like, what are your most used sounds, and talk through those a bit.
I mean, you've seen me kind of build them, like, you know, that simple sine wave pad is my go-to pad. And you know, the one that's saved on my keyboard might have more reverb or whatever here, but that's the process I go through. You know, I like to use the sine wave lead from Rock With You as a thing. If you guys know Rock With You, that bridge section has a nice sine wave. So we're gonna go initialize. It's got a little delay on it, and it's got, let's go a little faster. Oh, that's why. Slower attack, mono voice. That's a little too much on the reverb. Oh, we'll split it. Upper is the sine, lower is the Rhodes, and layer them. touch on there. And so that's that I love using that as a synth lead for like light kind of mellowy little fills, you know. The delay gives it a nice trail. It's not a hard stop. It's got a slow enough attack to where it's not like a slap in the face every time. It is kind of like the high end to me is a little harsh, so I might roll off a little bit. And that's just a nice gentle lead. But if we're doing some, you know, dance electronic song, I might use a different wave and just keep the same settings. Bring those highs back in. Bring the attack back down. Yeah, the key is really just knowing what each of these aspects does so you can get the sound that's in your head out. Because a lot of times I'm hearing something in my brain, like, no, I want it to be more fill in the blank. And being able to figure out which of these knobs does fill in the blank is how you can get there.
It's
Which is
been
where
helpful
this
for
book
me
comes
to
in.
like to reverse engineer sounds that you've done. In like I'll put live mode on and then I'll keep going from program to live, and I'll keep making adjustments, whether they're visual because there's a light or there's a knob, and I'm kind of seeing what it does, and it's helping me like really better understand how to get something that I do want. And then now I can just get there quicker, and I can maybe make some adjustments because maybe the program one didn't have enough highs or whatever. Like, so that's helpful. I was doing that before, you know, earlier today with this, just trying to get some of the pads that you made.
And that's the same thing that I do a lot of times. Like, oh, I need to learn how to play this song. Oh, there's this sound on it. But instead of seeing lights, I'm hearing it and trying to describe to myself, okay, it sounds like, you know, it's got a slow attack or a short attack. It's got a long release. There's some delay on it and something else. And, you know, trying to figure out all the aspects of it that I can before I even get to the keyboard, so that I have a better idea. Because once I get through those pieces, then I can listen and go, what's the difference between my sound and that sound? And maybe it's a different sound wave. There's an app on iPhone, and probably for Android and anything else, that I can't remember the name of, but it was a free little app that was just an ear trainer for synth stuff. It would, I think the three options were square, triangle, and sawtooth, and it would play one of those waves with one effect on it. Either a chorus or I don't remember what else they had, maybe a phaser or a flanger, but it would play one wave with one effect, and then you had to guess what it was. And it was just a simple little app, and it was really eye-opening because you'd be like, oh, I think it's this with this, and you're just wrong. It's like, oh, okay.
It's a saxophone.
Yeah, because there's not that many options, but you know, it's a great little training to spend a couple minutes ago and exercise your ear to be able to pick out, oh yeah, it's a triangle wave. Okay, cool.
I have a question for you. Go ahead, I've asked a
I was
question.
gonna ask if there are online, you know, groups that offer these sounds for free, that you can just kind of load stuff that they're offering out there.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
There are specifically Nord forums
Forum, that's
that'll
what I'm
have, that
You can
people
buy,
will
like,
make
worship
patches.
packs, things like that.
Yeah. And yeah, you can find, you know, Nord files that you can then load onto your, you know, keyboard and get the synths, but yeah, it also varies from keyboard to keyboard. You know, I haven't found a good resource for people who just say like, oh, this synth is this oscillator with this effect, with this aspect or whatever. But in case anybody
But I would
missed
think even like the Rock
these
With You,
recipes,
you could post your Rock With You
y-
thing out there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna use that for, you know, this set.
and yeah, it might be out there. I don't think I've ever tried looking for that. But like right here is all the leads. Like if you want a mellow 70s lead, there's a recipe for it.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you kind of have to translate from here to here because, you know, there's sometimes different language but like this wants a square wave oscillator tuned minus 10 cents. Fine tuning on this is a little interesting to do. And then you want a square wave tuned plus 10 cents. with tracking on, syncing off, noise off. And so you gotta figure out what these things mean on this specific keyboard. But this is a really great resource, and I've used this a few times. Like, oh, I want this kind of a sound. Oh, what would it be? Okay, I'll start with, and then tweak it to where I want it to be. But
Well, it might be helpful whoever starts using that first, like as you actually find out what it's like on the Nord, if you can write in notes specific
Yeah,
to the Nord,
yeah.
so that people don't have to
Yep.
recreate the melody.
and this one came with a CD with software on it, and one of the pieces of software is a little synth software thing that you can use to make these sounds, because it specifically needs a 2 oscillator system. And since this is only 1, making these sounds on this keyboard can be tricky. So then you have to go layering between slot A and slot B for the 2 oscillators. But yeah. So if you do get the book yourself, you can play with the software as well, which is handy. They also have a sound wave like reader, so you can put a sound into the software and it'll show you what the waves look like. So then you can try and recreate the waves with your settings and see how close you can get, which is how this guy does it. Yeah, that book is really spectacular. And it's a great resource for remembering what all these terms are and those sorts of things.
So can we come one of the weekdays?
Uh-huh.
Like, I don't know how open the church is.
Yeah, I mean,
here or
anyone who's ever wanted to come outside of hours, we've made it happen.
We've had drummers come in and practice, so it's open to anybody.
Yeah, I would just get you maybe a code, or I'd get you a temporary alarm code if it's here, or whatever. Or I'd have you go to Watch Park, which is the same exact settings as this without the alarm, so it's easier just to get in the building.
Oh, there's no alarm. Perfect.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful maybe to talk about, maybe this isn't helpful, to talk about when you hear a bad keyboard, like what are some things that bother you, to help us kind of learning our approach and how we fit in something. I don't know if it's easier to talk about it from the positive side of here's how I do it, or
Never do this.
So
when someone's too busy, or when someone, I don't know.
one of the things I think I do that might be different from other people is significant volume management, because there's so many different sounds and they can all have different volumes. I did a sound check for something a couple weeks ago, and the sound guy was just like, just play your loudest sound and we'll mix to that. And I was like, I don't want you to do that, because then I'm capped right here where we are at sound check, and I know the band is going to be louder. So I never sound check at full volume, but I'm constantly managing my own volume, because there's just so many different variables. I might be playing this synth and I might roll off the highs, which lowers the volume essentially, perceptibly. And so I might need to boost the volume elsewhere somehow. But that's something I've noticed is a big challenge for keyboard players. Even with these keyboards, we're just gonna compare full volume piano to organ. So piano's all the way up. That wasn't Rhodes. We don't want that. We want that. Back to piano. There's Rhodes again. But the pianos on these keyboards are usually louder than the organs are. It's just something I've learned over playing these keyboards for a while. So a lot of times I'll either pull back the piano volume, granted, with that drawbar setting, you gotta come up here to. Those are, pretty comparable volumes now. And I'm also playing with the volumes of whatever sounds I'm using constantly. That's why I usually play with a expression pedal, and I'm usually riding on the middle somewhere and just kind of mixing myself with my foot. Just depending on how I think I need to do that, which makes it more important to have a decent monitor mix, because then I'm mixing myself in my own ears, which is gonna be different than out there, but theoretically, if the band is playing with, similar dynamics, it should work out.
It's never something you can assume,
Right, right.
ideally.
So, yeah, if playing with synths and all that too, the same thing. Like different sound waves are gonna react differently to different volumes, and so volume management. Because I don't know how many gigs I've been told afterwards. Oh yeah, I couldn't hear the keyboards at all. It's like, oh great, I'm glad I was up there then. And part of that is the sound guy, part is the actual PA system, and there's a lot of aspects involved. But volume management, I think, is a very commonly overlooked part of it. Even with piano, sometimes if it's a real quiet song, piano might be too much, and I might pull the volume down a little bit so that I can not worry about just playing really delicately and mixing okay. In terms of just bad keyboard playing,
Maybe, and
I don't
again, maybe
see
that
it.
was like not a great way of
Right.
asking the question, but
I don't-
more so, how do you
I don't
approach
notice
it?
a lot of
What are
common
some
things.
Yeah.
that I see other people doing poorly. I mean, the most easily visible things is bad sound design when they're trying to recreate something. Like, if they're trying to play rock with you and that sound isn't right, they need to spend a little more time building it, then things like that. But even that's not universal, because sometimes they're playing original music, so whatever they want it to be is what it should be.
Right.
And as a keyboard player, I don't get to play with other keyboard players very frequently.
Yeah. I'll probably edit that question out.
So, it's, I don't know if I've ever actually seen it, but if somebody were to play an organ like a piano, I would consider that maybe less than ideal.
That's just a bad player, not doubtful.
It just feels like universally across all instruments, it would be more helpful if we were more intentional about what space we were supposed to be occupying. And then look at what space we are occupying and see if there's a difference.
Yeah, like when I'm getting ready for a Sunday and I'm preparing my keyboard and the things that I'm going to be playing, like among the questions are there going to be tracks? That's the first question. If there are tracks, what's in them? And then if every keyboard line that's already in the song is in the tracks, then I've got to figure out something else to play. Or a lot of times you can mute them and I'll learn those lines, but I've got to figure out something else to play, so I'll try and describe the sounds that are already there and kind of do something different. So if the sounds are all really aggressive, I might do something not aggressive. Or if it's a really mellow, kind of like just a simple pad, then I'm not going to do a pad, because you don't need to do that. And I might go with a piano or something that isn't already there, but still complements. But the thing to then think about is what those individual keyboard tracks are doing. If they're like, melodically filling in between vocals, then I don't need to do that, and I shouldn't do that. Because if there's some line that's being played, I can play the line alongside whatever the keyboard is doing. But if I'm just playing piano, whatever, just kind of filling along, and then the tracked keyboard is doing something interesting, I will let the tracked keyboard be the interesting part. 90% of the people out there aren't going to realize that it's not me doing it. I can take credit. And so I'm okay with letting a digital version of somebody take credit and do something cool.
Yeah.
Because if it's good music, it's good music. I don't need it to be me that's making it.
Yeah.
If
It feels
it's-
like as we're getting better at replicating sounds, we'll be able to start like muting and not adding as much tracks to allow for that.
Yeah.
Um,
And you know, if it's some synth that is just really big and fat and awesome, and you just can't quite get it with this keyboard, that's fine. I'll let that be the track, and I'll play the pad or whatever. The important thing is just to not make the music worse. That's my goal. You know.
Don't make
And there's a lot of ways to do that.
I think there's also something to be said about the other instruments in the band, like if you're just stomping all over the bottom end, you're riding over the top of the bass player.
Yeah.
A lot of times, or the electric lead, if you're up here with some high synth a lot.
Yeah, a lot of times I'll look over and see where the guitar player's playing. If he's playing down here, then I'll play up here. If he's playing up here, I'll play down here.
Right.
And a lot of times it really is just that simple. If the guitar player's filling all the opportunities, I'll let him, that's fine. And I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But if I notice he's not filling somewhere, I'll play a little something. But listening goes a long ways for determining what you're going to do, because that's how you figure it out. Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question. Go for it.
I just was like, so I think, I don't know if I can speak for a lot of you guys, but I'm a piano player, right? And I think like a piano player, like as you think about how as you start on piano,
Yeah.
and then transition into thinking like a keyboard player, like what are just a few things, like kernels of wisdom you could share with us to help us transition into thinking like keyboard players versus just piano players?
All right. That's a really good question. I wish I had a couple days ago. So like, if you compare the two, piano really is one sound. Like, you can't modify that sound short of the way you play the keys. The synthesizers, you can play without keys at all. Like, modular synthesizers are knobs and plugs that you plug in, and you can do it with no keys. So when I'm playing synth, I'm more focused on this aspect of it than on this aspect of it. When I'm playing piano, I'm thinking about this and not this. You know, I might tweak things a little bit for piano, but I'm focused on the keys. The organ, the significant characteristic of the organ is the drawbars and the Leslies. So that's what I'm paying attention to. I'm thinking about my drawbar setting and this. And, you know, I'm thinking about the keys too, but I'm giving a good portion of my attention to here. Sound design with both organ and synth is a significant portion of the act of playing those things. I'll spend as much as, if not more, half my time preparing will be designing the sounds, in addition to learning the songs. You got to treating these instruments with the respect that they have been designed with. And don't get me wrong, I love pianos, and when I'm playing a piano, I play piano by playing the keys, because that's what there is to it. And you know, that crosses over to Rhodeses and upright pianos and harpsichords and clavinets and all that. In terms of specific nuggets, I don't know.
That was pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Was that the one?
That felt like the one.